Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Dave, and bringing back for the first time since I think Kenobi last year, Alden Diaz. Lovely to have you back on.
Hello, my friends. Yes, so good to be back, and for such an exciting occasion.
Yeah, I mean, we're just under 2 weeks away. I mean, celebration starts in 12 days. Is it, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot to do. I say we've got lots to do. You've got to pack. You've got to fly to the country. And I know you're going to be there on the weekend, which is great. And we are here discussing Celebration again. It's another one of our preview videos. More of a guide for anyone that's had questions, anyone that has queries, anyone that's texted me asking stuff. I'm not a dick that said, "Oh, come and watch it on YouTube." I've obviously replied to your messages, but I'm also going to bring them up on here. Could you imagine how awful that would be? I really need some help. Tune in on Sunday at 9 o'clock.
Just send a link to the channel.
Yeah.
It's like we've known each other since we were kids. I don't care. Like,
I need the views, damn it.
I mean, listen, some channels would. We don't share those ones, but we all know what kind of channels they are. They want you to fund their fan films as well. But that's the last thing I will say about that. And everyone here, please do let us know your questions for Star Wars Celebration. As I said, this is a live stream. We're here to help. We're getting ready for this. We want to help people. We appreciate it's going to be people that have never been to Star Wars Celebration before, people that have never been to the UK before. Any tips, advice, guides, sectors on strike. That's a very big thing in the UK at the moment, which is as important as finding out who is on strike. We've just found out more before we hit record that I didn't even know about. Thanks to Alden for letting us know about that one. But yeah, it's going to be very fun. And if you want to find us on our social medias, go get us on Twitter and Instagram at @cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy, a link to Redbubble in the description below. But before we get into things, Alden, I want to put you on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
It is the first time you're coming to the UK. What's the number one thing on your bucket list to do outside of Celebration?
Entirely outside of Celebration, if I have to pick one touristy thing to do, I did think about it before in some conversations. Like some people were asking me, like, "Oh, are you going to go to like some of the iconic sort of historical landmarks and things?" And I thought, gun to my head, I feel like I would do Abbey Road before I did like the palace or any of that. If I'm like I have to squeeze one iconic place in, that's what I would probably do. But pop cultural stuff is what I would do before I did anything related to history. If I was going to do some of that, I would want to do like a non-celebration vacation. But yeah, I mean, there's a million things to choose from, which is the great thing.
No, absolutely. It's great to get, and I do think that is going to be one of the popular spots. Ironically, I've never been. I've also got
you can annoy drivers for hours. Just
Well, here's a random. I think this was a fact. I think this happened during lockdown. I believe it's the first time since the album came out in which they were able to paint the zebra crossing during lockdown because there was no one around. I think that was a fact. It could be wrong. It probably needs to be double checked, but I remember seeing that around a lot. Which is a very interesting thing. But yes, that's a lovely way to get started. And listen, as I said, it's great to have you back on. You are a bit of a pro when it does come to not just Star Wars, but Celebration as well. And today we're not just doing a checklist of stuff. We wanted to talk about fan panels because last week we spoke about, don't say the big panels in a disrespectful way, but the lottery system, how to get into those, how to navigate around the event. And what we wanted to do today is bring someone on. You're going to be hosting a panel, which we'll talk about as well, which I've already apologized for that I can't make. The Sunday afternoon slot.
It's too loaded, man. It's a loaded weekend.
It's really frustrating. There's a few things I want to do, and they're all the Sunday afternoon and evening, and it's the one day I need to cut short because of a football thing, which I wouldn't normally. If it was any other year, I wouldn't even need to cut it short to watch an Arsenal game, but this year I do, which is really bad, and I'm not going to keep bringing up football. But we're going to talk about fan panels. We're going to talk about photo ops. And this isn't just meeting celebrities. This is, you're going to have costume groups there, cosplayers. You're going to have sets being built by people that do this for a living or do it at home. There's going to be so much stuff. So we want to talk about the process of that. We're going to be talking about autographs. And we've got a couple of other things to talk about. The app has come out. There's a map. There's a few other things. The badges are pretty much arriving everywhere now. There's a few people still waiting, I believe. But we're going to try and have a nice discussion as we keep building up. But aside from that, Alden, we'll actually hand over to you first. Do you want to talk about the panel you're hosting? Because I saw you tweet a few weeks ago. I know you've done one in the past, and it'd be good for people at home to find a bit more detail as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sunday on the HoloNet news stage, they sort of this year they combined the media badges with the podcast stage badges into one sort of big catch-all for different media outlets, different shows, et cetera, different hosts. And it's HoloNet news stage. I believe it has 2 rooms the entire weekend. Ours is 14. I think the other one's 17, I want to say. And so basically last year myself and Goose from Triad of the Force and Katrina Dennis, we did a panel about all of the Latin representation in Star Wars. Characters like Din Djarin or Cassian Andor, or now even Ahsoka in live action, and the different people that it's more and more and more. It's not just, oh, there's Bail Organa. He's the only Latin guy really that is relevant. It's now it's like it's kind of the torchbearers of right now are those characters, and so this year it's sort of a follow-up to that, an expansion of that, but particularly in a post Andor world, that we are now one show behind us. The show that we're currently in and the next show that we're anticipating are all led by these people, because despite the fact that I am as white looking as the day is long, I'm Puerto Rican, Goose is Puerto Rican, and Triad of the Force has always been good about representation and sort of the progressive Star Wars politics. And so we're going to be breaking all that down Sunday at 4 on that stage, which will be a lot of fun. They do a really good job, the setups and everything with making sure that the audio quality is great. The rooms are always set up well. I'm not sure if he's doing it again this year, so I don't want to like confirm something and he's not, but I know last year Mark from Fantha Tracks was handling podcast stage and sort of being an on hand organizer and helping out with that, and he was awesome. He's the sweetest dude, so that was a lot of fun.
I know that just after you on the Sunday, Mark is hosting on the same stage, and Fantha Tracks are fascinating. So I first met them a couple of years ago at one of the conventions of the Droid Builders, and I didn't know who they were. Obviously Jedi News, a lot of people are probably familiar with, and Mark from Fantha Tracks, I forgot the name of the second one there. They're at so many events of us, and they are genuinely lovely. But Mark has done a lot of celebrations. I think even at Chicago as well. He sort of looks after those stage. And I've always, obviously, we don't know the behind the scenes, but when people are doing the applications, when they're in contact to see if they can get onto stages, if they've got ideas for stuff they want to do, I think for me at least, as someone that in Chicago, I mainly did the big panels. I did a couple of smaller ones. I did a lot of the stuff on the stages. London, I pretty much only did the big panels. I can't remember too much else. The panels, the smaller ones, are genuinely as good as the big ones. And I think that's something that people that are watching, when people talk about what can we do for the day, some of the fan panels are equally as good. And kind of bringing you onto this as well, the one thing I've always been really fascinated by with representation of Star Wars is that over here in the UK, obviously the Latinx community isn't the scale obviously like it would be in America. So it's always been fascinating for me as a long oversight who has seen stuff. And someone I really liked, Andres Cabrera. I know he's not going this year. He's also, I think I forgot the people that did it with him last year. They're going over and doing it again this year.
Yeah.
And that's again talking about Latinx. And it's a really fascinating thing because you are bang on that there's not really been much of it in Star Wars. And then Andor sort of kicked it up a bit, and even Diego Luna getting nominations as well for playing that role in that first season. It's a really fascinating side point, and certainly, with the more modern films shooting in America now, not modern films, sorry, the shows as well. We're seeing a lot more of that. As much as we love the British Empire and whatnot, it is interesting seeing how there's differing things come up. And kind of segueing over to you, Dave. We're not just going to sit here and list panels because there's so many amazing ones, but can you remember 2016? I just don't think there were as many panels or a system like this that we now have.
Yeah, I mean, when we were there in 2016, you're right. With myself as well, I took in probably the main panels. It was was it a 3-day event in 2016? Yeah. So your time was diluted again, and the big panels kind of took you, especially because we were having at that point queue for wristbands overnight. She was sleeping in the convention center. You were getting a wristband, so you were kind of in a place where you were kind of just making sure you had that kind of coverage. And to be honest, at that point, I went to very few like panels outside of that. There was a couple on for D'Agostini had one at the time because the Build the R2 was about to come out, so they had that on show. But I saw very few. Whereas this year I've been through the app and had a look, and there's so many panels outside of the big panels, as they like to put it. But the main panels, there's such diversity of subject matter and and the different people who are doing these. And I think it's going to be much more orientated around my journey this time, to take a lot more of that in on the smaller stages and actually just enjoy, because I love like the podcast and things. So seeing some of those voices being there and just getting to sit and listen to them for an hour, I think is going to be a really, really big feature for me this year.
Yeah, definitely, and kind of in line of that, I've put a link in the live chat for anyone that's watching that might be curious. But you can essentially narrow down when you're on screen, when you're looking at what you want to go to. You can filter it by set dates. What are you into? They've got so many different genres of what's on. But for me, at least, I'm the same as you, Dave. A lot of the stuff I enjoy is seeing some of the podcasts come live. Now, an obvious one everyone will talk about will be Alex and Molly from Star Wars Explained. They're on at Saturday at 3:30 in the afternoon, which I'm very excited for. They've just done a guide video today as well, which I'll be checking out a little bit later. But some of the stuff I love, and this is, I think the one thing 2016 had, do you remember the Visit Island booth and the Skellig photo op? It was that led me to go to Skellig. I wanted to go anyway, and that's an exhibitor technically, but there's always the travel ones, and that's what's fascinated me. And obviously, you know, I've done Skellig, I've been to Pyma to an extent to say I've done certain Star Wars things, and there's so much more, and you get loads of photos. And the one thing that popped up to me earlier in the week, there's an amazing one for Star Wars made in Italy, and they're going to be essentially looking at what Italy's done with Star Wars, and certainly I would say the prequel generation. Yeah, I see a lot of people I know that have just happened to been there. Lake Como is one of the big ones. Casino Royale shot at the exact same spot as obviously Anakin and Padme in Episode 2, which is still one of the greatest irrelevant trivia in film. One day that's going to come to you somewhere. It's just what lake shot at Casino Royale and that, but it's up to everyone, I think, to not necessarily obviously go there. We can't tell you what to do, but if you're there for 4 days and you're thinking, how do I organize things? How do I stagger things? And I'll say this in a really polite term: even if you're tired, don't sit on the floor. Go to a panel. You can relax your legs, and you're still going to have a great time listening to anyone that's around you. And I think for me, at least, as an outsider, the fan panels that Lucasfilm have put forward, I think there's so much variety in them that it's genuinely made things so much more interesting. Even I think there's a Saturday. On the Saturday, there's a panel for Solo. And you'd think on paper it's a 5-year anniversary. It's going to be like a celebration stage, or there could be an announcement or anything like that. The fact it's on the fan stage and it's people that I can't remember who's moderating it. I had seen it written in the past, but the fact that the fans want that 5-year anniversary to be discussed, and that's what this is for. It's Star Wars Celebration. You're celebrating the series, and why not celebrate something like that, especially when it's shot over here as well, which is always an interesting thing. But kind of, without putting on spot, Alden, are there any other panels that jump out to you that if you were trying to tell someone new that's never been to Celebration, aside from the big ones, what fan panel or two would you say this is one that genuinely is going to be as good as one of the big ones?
Well, I will say on the subject of that solo panel, I'm glad you brought it up. I have an interesting connection to that panel. So one of the hosts, she goes by Savi online. We went to high school together. God. And but it's not like we were like tight in high school and like stayed friends over the years. It was Celebration last year. We were by the food trucks, and I saw her and she saw me, and I was like, do you? Because her mom was a teacher at our school. And so we all kind of knew each other, but I was in the grade above her. So then we like reconnected through Star Wars, but we also have the funny bit of like being from the same town and having been known the same people and everything. And so she's one of the people putting that together with Kessel Run Relay, that podcast as well, are the co-hosts there. And they're a great group of people. I'm trying to make sure I have all the names. I know it's Savi, Liv. Let me see if I can find it here. But while I'm looking up their names, the really interesting thing about that panel, like you said, is that it's first of all, it's the only solo programming the whole weekend. So I wanted to highlight that as well. So if you're really on board with the solo fandom and that's your movie, like this is your moment. Saturday, April 8th at 3 on the fan stage. The Kessel Run Relay crew, Hayden, Emily, and Liv. So Hayden, Emily, Liv, Savi. It's going to be a really, really good time. Excited about that. Like you said, shooting over there, but even some of the connections that it has, in terms of its cast, in terms of its creatives, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, of course, and Tandaway Newton. And like there are people there that are really inherently a part of it. So I'm really excited for that. But like we said, there's going to be push and pull, because to attend that, you cannot attend, unfortunately, the High Republic panel, which is another thing. That's not a fan one, obviously. That's going to be probably phase 3 reveals. So this is when the choices come into play. So this is when you just have to really, what I encourage everyone to do is just be honest with yourself about what parts you like the most. Don't follow a hype. Don't think because it's official, it's going to be better. Because it's people that work for Lucasfilm, it's going to be better. Not necessarily. That's not always true. The fan one could be much better. Just say, these are my favorite Star Wars things, and chase them.
You've got to think that the passion that a lot of the fan panels will have over a professional put together Lucasfilm panel can be so different in what they present, where people who put this together, who love, like the Solo one, love Solo, love the High Republic, are going to come in there and love Solo and have different things to tell you. Like the passion will often drive these ones forward, where you might sit and find something you didn't know, find something new about it, find a new passion in yourself for the thing you thought, I really like this part of Star Wars, and these guys are now telling me you may find new things to listen to and enjoy through these the fan panels much more than you might the big panels and the Lucasfilm put on panels.
Yeah, and I'd say if I'm going to go back to Chicago 2019, this is, I mean, I was very lucky with the panels I went to, you know. I got into the celebration stage for the Phantom Menace 20th anniversary, which with the Ammo Best of this week, which is amazing. And I would, if they need a surprise moderator, try and get them over for one of the panels on the Friday. Yeah. If they are going to do something Mandalorian-esque, there's going to be something, I hope. But that was an amazing thing for me, you know, a childhood thing coming true. And then alongside that, there was an amazing panel. And like I mentioned earlier, sometimes you want to get into something to have a break. It wasn't on the celebration stage. I forgot which one, but David W. Collins, who has been at Lucasfilm for decades, who had the incredible soundtrack. I can't remember the name of the soundtrack podcast.
It's just called the Soundtrack Show. He used to do
the Soundtrack Show.
Yeah.
He did a live Phantom Menace soundtrack discussion, you know, 20th anniversary and all that. And I remember, and I got a text, I think, from you or Phil saying John Boyega's apparently meeting everyone in the lobby. And obviously, because I do a lot of autograph collecting photos at the time, and I was like, but I'm having so much fun just listening to this deconstruction of an album in a way I never imagined even being deconstructed. To the point of when he spoke about that, you could hear the Emperor's theme within other parts of the score, which until it's slowed down and he's playing it is just remarkable. And there's so much fun to be had in panels. And I just think for people, and if you're talking honestly as well, sometimes if you see a panel, there's not many people in there. That's not any indication to quality. Yeah. It is busy. It is gonna be tiring for some. They might be elsewhere. If you've got other things to do, as you said, sacrifices unfortunately get made. One of my big ones is going to be autograph collecting, which I'll talk about a bit later, because there's been some scheduling details or lack of details which we can talk about. But yeah, the fan panels I think make this. And again, if you look at the concept of Star Wars Celebration, you should be celebrating this. And Lucasfilm and ReedPop, they know what they're doing in respect to the fans of. These are people that want to take their own time out to do these sorts of things, and they are not easy to get approval for fan panels, I must say. As someone that's discussed it with others and hasn't been able to for reasons obviously I'm not going to say in the stream, it's very hard to come together for some. And that's what's amazing, is that those that do get the chance to do it make the most of it. The honor it probably has to be at an event like that, the no doubt you attended as a fan to begin with, to then be hosting panels. That's quite remarkable in its own right. And it's just such a big part of the event. Again, celebrations in the title, and as I said, there's so many different ways, so many different things you can interpret from. And even if it's something small like the droid building stuff, we've managed to get three panels, and I think they're all in the Galactic Senate stage. I think there's one Friday, one Saturday, one Sunday, and even that's been tricky to organize. And you look at the droid builders and their stories within Star Wars, working on the films as well. It's not easy getting the stuff organized, and ReedPop as well to designate space stages. It's a really important thing. And as I said, anyone watching, anyone that's not been before, as I said, if you want to get a drink and have a break, find yourself a panel. Obviously, don't like eat loud or heckle or anything like that. Let's treat everyone with the respect they should. So I saw a tweet last night that Tarantino did a talk in London for his new book, and he got heckled on stage for not talking about his films, which I just thought was. Imagine heckling Tarantino and Edgar Wright together. That's quite extraordinary. Insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I'm just got to get that out there, because I don't think you. I mean, I've never witnessed someone be heckled at Celebration. I've never been there. I mean, I've been to 2 of them, in the sense of, everyone there is got the dignity and respect. And without getting into the stuff you see online of Star Wars, like any fandom, it's very different to how people are in person, because let's be honest, 99% of those people aren't ever there. And that's why the reputation some have isn't like what it is in reality. So I feel like I'm waffling at this point. Dave, I'm going to politely hand over to you. Anything else on the fan panels before we talk about sort of photo ops and what you can sort of do at the event around the weekend?
Yeah, I think the fan panels themselves, I think we've kind of covered a lot of it. It's just that, like, Alden really put really well. Look for something that you love in this genre. We're all going to Celebration for a reason. We're not just turning up for an event that we thought, oh, we'll go see what this is like. We're all going because of our love for these movies and these TV shows and this world. And it's probably the one thing I took more from 2016 was that feeling of the inclusivity of people. Like, you just took in this atmosphere of fun and people enjoying themselves. I think stupid things like the swaps that people are doing, people bringing little bits of merchandise they've made, stickers and badges, just to kind of give out to each other. And I just think there's such a wonderful atmosphere. That the panels are great, and if you can get into some of the big ones, you might see some amazing things. You might see some amazing actors.
Yeah.
But also, if you check out the schedule, if you think, I might want to see that actor, but I might not get in that panel, the Star Wars stage is going to have, they've actually scheduled when actors are going to appear on the stage. You're still going to be able to get and see some people you might think, I would never have seen that person.
Which
even if
they've
you're not
never done
them.
before.
Yeah.
They made a note about that. They've never, I think it was, what's his name? Chris Argelopoulos. I might be butchering the last name. But he works there. And he was saying, we've never scheduled them before. And you will note, Friday is pretty open, which means if you're big surprises, probably Friday. So if you're somebody that likes to see the talent and everything and get the funny off the cuff interviews, like, that's a place to camp out, maybe.
I mean, even that Celebration live stage as well, which I know that oh god, I've forgotten his name. I did the same last week. I've embarrassed myself. Not Andy Gutierrez.
Carboni.
Yeah.
Anthony Carboni.
Anthony Carboni.
Yeah.
He did a really, actually, quite an open post about some stuff he's been going through. But he did put in this post on Instagram that he will be hosting it again this year, and he's coming over to London for his 5th Celebration. And the Celebration live stage is amazing. I mean, again, even in Chicago, the amount of times where I just, it was in such a great location. I don't know what it's been like at the other American ones, but with it being in this almost the centerpiece to the convention, you just walk up there, it's like, is that CM Punk talking? And it was.
And it was CM Punk. George, let me I was so pissed because I was not there. I was American pissed, not British pissed. And I was like,
I was on the floor with a beer.
I was stumbling up to his panel. No, I had to go back to Florida for work. And also, I flew back. It was crazy with all the snow and everything that happened. Lots of flights getting canceled. Game of Thrones was that night. It was a whole thing. And then somebody was like, CM Punk was on stage the next morning. I was like so livid. But I will say, just as a note, Chicago, beautiful placement. It was the centerpiece, like you said.
Yeah.
Last year, not at all. Last year, the live stage was up against the far side. So if it was like, someone texted us and was like, because I'm a big Sabine fan, they were like, Natasha Luberdizzo is on the live stage, and we were on the opposite end. It was like, like to try to get over there. So hopefully they place it right in the middle. If they follow the London format from 2016, when they had it was the Falcon, right? They had the Falcon set up.
Yes.
And I remember Mark and Carrie, coming out of the tunnel and everything. Like, I feel like that placement looked pretty central.
Yeah.
We have it on the map. I've got the map to bring up, but I just want to talk about CM. And I hate doing this. The CM Punk thing was amazing. One of my best friends, he won't be watching this, but we have grown up on wrestling together. And obviously every single wrestling fan knows that Chicago crowds, the reputation of Chicago in wrestling, and of course the wrestler from Chicago. Everyone talks about CM Punk. And I remember before I flew, I said, do you think CM Punk will turn up? Because I think, is it C2E2 was like a week or two before?
C2E2,
and obviously he's in Star Wars. And I was just chatting to one of my friends. And I said, if he's there, I'll If he's there, that'd be great. I'm not gonna, you can't just keep around 100,000 people. But I was like, I'll keep him out. And it was after the Mandalorian panel. I watched it in one of it might have been the Galaxy stage, and I remember, got up, grabbed my posters, was going up the escalators, and you'd always go again Celebration Station Hub, and I just heard the CM Punk theme. I was like, he's here, and I rang my friend, and I was like, CM Punk, so I'm not taking the piss. I rang my sister, CM Punk, so I'm not taking the piss. And then the weirdest thing. So I've never done this before, and this was the beauty of Chicago. The back of the Celebration stage was by the autographs where anyone could walk. Yeah. And you'd see all the autograph collectors always standing there, right? Whenever there was a Star Wars guest on, they were all there at the curtain. And I went over for CM Punk, and no one was waiting. So when he came out the door, I was so nervous. I said, "Oh, do you mind if I get a photo? I'm like a massive fan." And he did, and he was lovely. And it's those sort of moments that can help it, even though wrestling has nothing to do with Star Wars.
He just liked it.
In fact, he liked it, and he liked it, and that adds to the occasion that it was in Chicago and CM Punk turned up. Like, what other British people could turn up that weekend? I don't expect Bukayo Saka to turn up, but it's one of those kinds of things that you
get people that they're a fan, or we've seen that in the filmmaking. Like, we've already mentioned Bond a couple times. It's like, I'm not saying Daniel Craig's going to buy a 4-day pass, but it's like, he obviously likes Star Wars enough to want a cameo and to like go over there and stuff. So it's like, you never know. And, the Willow cast has sort of been a big question mark. And it's like, well, Warwick and Annabelle Davis are both going to be there. So like, maybe they do pop up. Like, yeah, we don't have a panel, and the show is on indefinite hold, but like, we're going to hang out, so you never know.
Definitely. And that's the same to anyone that, do the Celebration stage. I said it's great. I'm glad you brought up, Dave, that you can see the schedule for it. And those Friday, X, Y, and Z could turn up. I'm just sat there saying, the money I would watch if Harrison Ford turned up, to get out on a stage, see people cheering him, and be like, ugh, and just turn around and go. That would be worth.
That's the thing, is that we keep talking about Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. This is also Dial of Destiny time.
Yeah.
Like, it's coming. This is next after Mandalorian. It's Dial of Destiny. It's not Ahsoka. So it's like, we've got Phoebe Waller-Bridge as the big co-star. Like, even if let's say Harrison didn't want to go to the UK, I'm sure he will, but let's say he sat it out. She is at this point an icon for the nation, for television, and now in this, and is already in Star Wars. So I think bringing her out for the studio showcase and then walk her back from that to the live stage would be, aces.
Absolutely. And Mads is there as well. He's signing, which means, if they do drop a poster, everyone's going to rush over to him. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to see this work. So people at home, we use StreamYard, and they've done an amazing new update. And we're putting it on the spot. I didn't test it properly. So it should now let us screen share stuff that just doesn't look terrible and make us too small. So I have here, I believe, the map. And it does work. You can't really zoom in, but this is the floor map for the XL. I'm not going to sit here and pinpoint saying this is this, this is this, this is this. If you've got the app, you can download the app, have a look at the map on there. It's not been released online. Obviously, people are doing their screenshots and sharing it like myself, but this makes the XL look small. This is a humongous building that is, that walkway in the middle is the length of the entire building. And if you've been to a convention there before, you've likely had to walk around it to get through the doors, which takes about 10 minutes by itself. It's also where I met Dave Filoni when I was carrying a Tesco bag, the most random encounter of my life. And that's the beauty of it being England. I think because it's so much different, you might see more people around on the floor or outside. Because there was a really weird, it was an underground meeting, but it was the day of the cosplay competition, right? There was this incredible Clone Wars Darth Maul where someone had got the stilts and done the robot legs. And me and my sister, we did a food shop. We were walking back to the hotel. You walk past the XL building, and there was just like 5 cosplayers. And Sam Witwer, Ashley Eckstein, and Dave Filoni were just there talking to them. I was like, this was like some underhand, like, come to the Clone Wars meetup behind the scenes. But that sort of thing is just amazing. I'm not saying you wouldn't get it in America, but there's some things that I just think, because they're in the UK, I think they're going to feel like this is a smaller event.
And they're also on vacation to a certain degree.
Yeah, of course. And this is kind of my thinking, that when I look back to 2016 was big. And the big thing I remember last year, when those tickets went on sale and sold out in the 3-4 day passes were gone in like 35-40 minutes.
It was the fastest sellout I've ever experienced. It was fast.
in 2016, me and my sister booked it on the day they went up, which was great. We were excited. And then I remember someone I was friends with, for some reason, didn't book tickets. It got to the October. It still hadn't sold out the weekend passes. Then it did sell out and he complained. But he could buy them all individually. And I think the scale that this is going to be this year is going to surprise a lot of people that might have been to any other UK conventions. I think it's going to be massive. And just for that map for anyone else, I mean, we can actually see we do have the Celebration live stage. It's in the middle, but it is tucked into a corner in the main hall. So it's by the photo ops and autographing area. I'm guessing that'll make it easier for them to get the talent out from their slots to turn up to do an interview.
Right.
We've of course got the Celebration stage, but for anyone at home, as I said, do download the app. It's not live or die. I remember Chicago, you actually had to reserve stuff on the app, which was a catastrophe for some. But this year we've got I almost said it wrong again, Dave, the light speed lanes, isn't it? So we won't have to reserve too many slots, but get the map. The map is important on the app. Sorry, I keep getting app and app mixed up. And it is multiple floors as well. So as I said, if you just look at the morning queue area at the top left, that is probably going to be one of the biggest parts. And it looks tiny because it's on a map of the entire building. And I just think the scale of this weekend is going to be insane. Even the Celebration stage, I'm very curious at the size of it. Me and Dave spoke last week. In 2016, it was almost one tier. Whereas we're wondering, are they going to build upwards tiers this time around? We're going to have a floor plan, sides, and the back. It's going to be really interesting to see how they utilize the XL for it, which ultimately is great. The more people that can get into that panel, the easier. And kind of in line of that, what we know is that, sorry, I'm looking at the date. Tuesday is the day where I believe everyone's going to find out about the main panels, if your lotteries were successful, if they were unsuccessful. I would say to anyone that's going to be waiting, certainly UK guys, you might not find out till even Wednesday morning with the time gap. So I think Chicago, it came, was that the night or two before Celebration started? It was very close to the wire, and they all came late at night. So,
and you also, I think in Chicago, we got them individually too, which was annoying.
Yes.
You would get like a rejection or an acceptance, then you have to wait a little bit. And then another acceptance or rejection, and you have to wait a little bit.
Absolutely.
I just think, look at that map as well. If you're on a 4-day pass, especially, you see the map in front of you. If you look at that now, that is a big area. Like Georgia said, that walkway down the middle. That's a 10-minute walk from end to end. So the whole place is massive. So if you're on a 4-day pass, maybe you've got something booked on the Friday. But if you haven't, take your time. Don't rush into this as I've got to see everything right now. Take an hour, walk around the whole thing. Just plot where things are in your head, so you kind of go, "That's there. Oh, those are going to be there." Just so in yourself, for maybe if you had stuff on the Saturday that you're doing, like I need to be around that end, and just get yourself in a mind frame of like, I know where everything in this place is. But especially on the 4, I think on a 1 day when you're just there over the weekend for 1 day, it is a bit more of a push. But if you've got a weekend past this thing, take your time, take everything in, know where stuff is, and then really just enjoy it and spread yourself out throughout the time. Don't rush around like, I've got to get through all the stalls and see where everything is. You really don't. You really take your time and enjoy it.
And I remember a big thing from last year, Alden, the Mandalorian exhibit with all the props. That was announced during the Lucasfilm panel, wasn't it? That was
during the showcase. Yeah, it was a very well kept secret because the Anaheim Center has that secondary small building off to the side, same campus, but it's like you have to leave and go in a different door, and it's right there. And they used that to hide what they were doing.
I mean, I don't want to make assumptions. I don't want to, what Star Wars do. They're great at building up their own mindset and hope. If they want to do that for Andor, and now I know it's filming, but if they want to do it for Andor, they are more than welcome to. There's a few empty halls in there that you could easily be sneaking some stuff in. And the way that the XL works is the fact that, you can close and open the shutters in between the building. They can reorganize however they need to. It's a bit like the NEC for any British people. And I almost talked about the fact it was a hospital during COVID, then that's definitely not the right time to bring that up. Sorry, one of my friends ended up having to live there for 3 months, which was remarkable when I used to get some Zoom calls about that. And then I'm just going to very quickly bring up I think the second floor that's official. Here we go. A bit smaller, but as I said, the XL is a big building where it's level 3, sorry. If you're a Jedi Master VIP, I guarantee you are not watching this video, but you've got your own chill out room. But there's a lot up there. Again, the fan stages, the university stages are up there with the HoloNet stages. That's going to be a great place. If you're just trying to get into panels, you could probably sit at that top floor knowing that, okay, there's always going to be something on here. And again, if you want to take your time, if you're tired, if you've been walking for a few hours, if you just need a break, get in the panel, have a sit down, stretch your legs, have a drink, and you're going to listen to some people talk some Star Wars, and you're going to have a good time with it. And that's the most important thing, is that, you know, how the weekend works is how it works for you. Are you going there to do certain things and certain things, or I want to avoid this, I want to avoid that? That is absolutely fair, but we're just trying to help people make the most of it. And kind of in line of that, one thing we're going to talk about now is the photo ops. And I'm not going to sit here and bring up all of my old photos from events. I know it's just, I'm not very photogenic. But I want to talk about photo ops. So it's been really weird to phrase it and not market it as such, but I'm trying to avoid talking about the meets and greets of the actors. Some of the best things at Celebration have been for me, as you know, as a droid builder, they have a lot of unbelievable access. Chicago, they had almost like an exhibition of almost like every droid that the Americans have brought in. And I completely lost my mind at the Revenge of the Sith lava droid. There was one in person. I was absolutely gobsmacked, and I was so excited. But I know that the droid builders are going to have their own area, and they are building a set in which you will be able to have photo ops. Of course, there'll be droids there. There'll be a lot of other things. There's going to be droid races. I'm allowed to say that because that's been officially said from Star Wars Celebration now. And the droid racing, anyone can do. A lot of people have built droids. They're sort of smaller scale, probably. I mean, it's not really dimensionalized, but probably like this size. And you're going to be able to have races. That's going to be fun, and they're going to be happening throughout the entire event. But the photo ops is a really fun thing to do socially. I mentioned earlier, I made the photo myself, 2 people I met at Chicago. One of them is Matt from Blue Banther Milk, who's an absolute legend. The other one's a really sound lad called Quinn. We just went around after the Mandalorian panel and just did all the photo ops. And kind of what we've both spoke about. We'd seen the turbo tank. We'd seen loads of stuff across the first 2 days, but we thought, you know what? We'll do it on a day where we just want to do the photo ops. Yeah. And I really recommend that. There's going to be, you know, the cosplayers I want to talk about specifically as well. This isn't the costume use. These are individual cosplayers. Of course, consent. If someone's in an amazing costume, ask them for a photo. I'm guarantee you they're going to be happy to have a photo with you. But don't just snap people that you think look cool or look awkward. Some people might just be dressing up. They might not be into the photo side of things, but there's going to be so many great people. I believe there's going to be a massive meetup for the High Republic for a big photo as well at some point over the weekend. Yeah. I saw that on Twitter this week. Of course, we've got the professional groups. I mentioned the droid builders. The Garrison's going to be there. They have their own area. Rebel Legion are going to be there. Normally, the events that we do with them, you know, up and down in England, they have their own sets where people can go up, get photos with them. They'll be in costume. They always look amazing. Even just doing photos is stuff that's going to not kill time. That sounds really disrespectful. But for a lot of families that go, they might want to just take it in for a day. Oh, look, there'll be kids that see stormtroopers. They're going to be buzzing. They'll want to get a photo with them. And all these groups are worth seeking out to try and get those photos. And I think the photo ops are a really nice way to sort of make memories from the weekend. I know, Dave, when me, you and Phil met on that queue for the episode, well, it wasn't episode 8 panel, it was future filmmaking panel.
Yeah.
You know, there's the photo my sister just took of us 3 playing Top Trumps. It was awkward, but that's become like the photo from when we all met, because we played a game of I don't know if Top Trumps is a thing in America, or let me know if it isn't.
I don't think it is, no.
Oh well, we basically have a game, you get given 6 categories, and you know, the highest number or the lowest number for each category wins. If you win, you take their card. And basically they did an episode 1 to 3 set and an episode 4 to 6 set, and we merged the decks together because they were all the exact same categories. Right. And I think it went on, Dave, for a few hours, and we just had to call it a day because no one. When it's Star Wars, you know, it's like who'd been in the most films, and if you had R2D2 or 3PO, you'd always say this will be the question: who's been in the most. So yeah, it was great, but it's things like that. It's the relationships you make. Go out and get some good photos, and they're there for whatever you want to do in the future. Put on social media. The photo ops are amazing. People have built these. They aren't necessarily, you know, Lucasfilm people. I think there's a costume group that's coming to my head. They built the ATST from The Mandalorian. Yeah, I believe that's gonna be there in a few weeks. I don't know the scale of it, but there is, I know, an ATST that's going to be there. Can't really have a photo op, you know, on it. but it will be there. And I remember
You
TIE
should have a
Fighters
rope
as-
you can vine in like Chewie and doing the Tarzan row onto the top of it. This is just an activity.
There's guys in there that you can open up the hatch and just throw them out. Body dummies.
I mean, listen, we've seen John Wick. We've seen some great stunts come out the last week. Why not hire a stunts person to do that for a whole weekend?
Yeah, just fall all weekend.
And someone probably offers to do it for free, which is worse. They just want to get thrown off an ATST. I probably would as well, actually, now I've said that aloud. But yeah, the photo. I mean, does anyone have much to say on photo ops? Because it is a bit different. And as I said, they've listed a lot of the groups that will be there across Celebration social media, but we don't necessarily know what they're going to take, which is equally as great a surprise. And even exhibitors will have their own. Hasbro always has photo booths for you to do something. I don't know how Hasbro will do it anymore now that they use cardboard-only packaging. It probably reduces the needs to put you in as a figure. I know Lego always have a lot, and Lego's now confirmed to be attending after the drama last week where they weren't on the original announcement, so people had kicked off, and now Lego are attending, which is great because Lego should attend in a really non-weird way.
Yeah.
But Dave, put you on the spot. You could have any photo op in Star Wars. What's it going to be that could be at the event?
I think what they need to do from Andor is the prison scene where you actually have to go in and make parts for the for the shield for the
everybody does it like a spot at the table, the work
have
table.
To get a spot at the table. If you don't fit it right, you can't go in for that day. Like, sorry,
Awesome.
Unfortunately, you can't swim. Like, out you go, and it'll be amazing. But no, I'd love things like when they have the speeder bikes. I love when they have. Yeah. I'd love someone to have made. I'd love someone to do the Tantive hallway. I'd love to let that door. That's cool. Just something I'd love. Always want to just be photographed in. So yeah, there's just little things, but anything that people put out there, there's, like you say, they're not normally official Lucasfilm build, but the heart and soul that people put into these things, they look incredible. I can't wait to see. There was the huge 2016. There's the TIE fighter in the main hall. There was that huge TIE fighter, which was incredible. So yeah, I love the photo opportunities. I'm one for taking stupid photos of myself against anything I can. So I can't wait to do that again.
I did a don't drink and drive photo shoot on the speeder bike at Chicago, which I was really proud of in a really embarrassing way. But
speeder bike was great. I'm sure they'll put the N1 up because they had it at the premiere and they had it at the Mando experience. So that'll probably be on the floor somewhere, I would imagine.
if they found a way to get that to the UK, they've absolutely won. But over to Alden, is there any set, like, if you could see anything for a photo op, is there anything that jumps out to you immediately that you wouldn't have had any idea they could do?
I think it would be, honestly, my gut answer right now, recency, of course, is part of it, but the two from the Mandalorian. One, the Armorer's Forge would be really cool. You could have sort of like an open space, let people stand around it, and it could go all the way up to the top, and maybe you have like her tool cabinet off to the side, things like that. But also, I think one where you have to sit and crouch, and it's the Anzellan's shop, the droid shop.
Yes.
It's one where the camera is fixed down here, and you have to sit down like you're Din Djarin, like you're a child in there with Grogu and the three droid smiths. That'd be a lot of fun.
I want Carl Weathers also with his head there at all times, telling you what they're saying. Is the only way forward for it.
Yes.
I love that Carl Weathers is going. I watched all the Rocky films recently, so I'm really, really on the Carl Weathers hype. It's been a great month. Not that we're going to get any Rocky stuff at Star Wars Celebration. That would be an insane crossover. But no, that is some amazing ones there. And kind of stemming off the photos, I'm going to talk about autographs, and I'm not going to get boring. I promise you all. Autographs are a massive part of Star Wars Celebration. Mm-hmm. I'm going to talk about how they work, not in a really thick way, but when I went in 2016, not the main reason I went was for autographs, but the chance to meet, the legend. I'd done like one convention before, and I met Dave Prowse and Jeremy Bullock, who were both lovely, and Warwick Davis, of course. And I really enjoyed meeting them. And I remember, like anyone, any chance I could ever get in my lifetime to meet some of the other people that have had this impact on me, I would always take. And Celebration 2016. I remember clear as daylight. They just started announcing people left, right, and centre. Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, Anthony Daniels, of course, Peter Mayhew. And because I'd never been to a celebration, I'd watched a lot of Anaheim 2015 online. Me and my sister were at the London event they did in sync for it, which was great. That's where Warwick Davis was. Really random thing, was in the bathroom at the same time as him once. That was very off the cuff, but that was a very weird experience. Like, is that Warwick Davis? But it was. And it did make me think, as I've got older, why wasn't he at Celebration? He's always at Celebration. Why was he at the London recording? But that's not for me to say. But the autograph stuff, of course, there are autograph guests here. And I'm going to be really blunt about how I feel about the state of autograph collecting at the moment. Obviously, we had lockdown COVIDs. A lot of people were seeking new hobbies at home, hobbies that didn't entail you having to go out, of course. We saw stuff like Warhammer. I think it's like not about stocks, but stuff like Warhammer booms. People at home, they're building models, jigsaw puzzles, all that sort of stuff. The collecting side of things also had a boom. I think in America, the massive one, is it like baseball and like basketball trading cards? We were seeing a lot of stories about that, all these things from decades before, they all jumped up in value. And for myself, that had been collecting autographs for 4 years up to COVID, did a lot of red carpets as a fan. Was very fortunate the people I met at red carpets, 2 of them being Star Wars films, and I've met people at those events who I consider some of the closest friends I have. Of course, conventions and the like. You know, John McFor's come out. I met Donnie Yen at a convention, which is the most insane thing that Donnie Yen ever did a convention in the first place. And the most remarkable thing about that was 2017, and people had flown over from China to meet Donnie Yen at that convention in London. And that was around the time I thought, okay, this convention stuff's big, and it didn't feel big. And kind of what's happened in lockdown, it's going to sort of segue with the Star Wars stuff. When an autograph industry booms, there's obviously room for new opportunities. And an incredible group of people I met at Chicago called Star Wars Autograph Universe, which was a group of fans that just ran a Facebook group for collectors to help each other out, for advice about like pen placements, you know, how to collect things, tips to if you want to try and meet people in the future. And over lockdown, they started doing private signings, which was great. You know, these are collectors. They want to bring in these guests for the fans and organize these signings. The talent, they can't do conventions, of course, so they're going to do private signings with them. And unfortunately, what happened over lockdown is these groups that do this collecting and turn it into a professional business, obviously a lot of them are wealthy that do stuff like this, and most people in there probably aren't, but a lot of people will be. You hear stories of people like Natalie Portman, who had the most valuable Star Wars autograph in history because she'd signed less than 200 items, they believed, up until 2 years ago.
Wow.
Very much down to, I think, the past with Leon, if anyone's read about the disgusting stuff that sort of happened to her after, why she's never been big on public events, public signings, which I'm fully on her side with. And they got her in for an autograph signing. It was like $2,000, basically, if you wanted it on a poster. And this same autograph Facebook group kept getting, they got Robert Downey Jr., who'd never signed. Also someone that starts at $800 and goes up to a couple of grand. And then it was, oh, you want them to put their character name? That's like an extra $500. Oh, you want it to say a quote? Here's an extra grand. And the autograph collecting, for me, is someone that's done it for years. And I'm, as I said, very lucky with the people I've met, the budgets I've had as well. Not high budgets, someone that's a fan that earns income, you know, that had bills. I was very lucky with who I've been able to meet. And now, with the inflation of a lockdown, to me, the autograph collecting industry is absolutely disgusting. And I'm kind of, there's a weird way to start hyping up Celebration and getting autographs there. But it's, and certainly with this celebration, obviously, you know, the UK, we've had our cost of living crisis, and a lot of these guests are American flying over. Now, American cons operate very differently to UK ones. I've always known this. Normally, UK ones can't get the big names. The convention companies won't charge the same rate. They've got to fly them over. They've got to put them in hotels. It's a lot more expensive. So you wouldn't get it as much. And the money's not there in the UK as an industry compared to America. You know, it's people will fly over and go to where they need to go to meet people. And the UK doesn't have that luxury. And that's going to kind of head up into my thoughts on this celebration. So if you were going for autographs, fair play. The advice I can give you, which is frustrating, Chicago ran beautifully. You'd buy an autograph. You were then emailed nearer the time saying, hey, these are all the autograph signing slots. Pick your slot and you'll have this 30-minute window where you're going to meet this actor. And it worked amazing. I got to meet Forrest Whitaker, who's a legend, just, I mean, not within Star Wars, right? As an actor, it's like Forrest Whitaker at a convention, great. You know, Hayden Christensen, one of my childhood heroes. I got to meet him in Chicago, which is one of the best things that's ever happened to me at a convention. We've then had, it flowed so well because you had a time slot. And when you're at Star Wars Celebration, you don't have time to spend hours in the queue for meeting actors.
Yeah.
And this year they've now put on the website that autographs, you're just going to have to, if you've booked an autograph, you just have to turn up still. And you might be in a queue for hours. You might be in a queue for minutes. You're never going to know until you turn up. And that was quite
They should have
disheartening
kept
to
the
see.
groups. They should have kept the groups.
I know. And it's
I think
really
last year
strange.
did the groups. So I don't understand. Yeah.
This is it. And this is it. And there's groups, the photo ops, the active photo ops. If you're paying for those, you can now see the time slots. I believe they've been in contact with everyone that has them booked. So it's great if you've got photos. You're going to be in and out, but the autographs is going to be. I don't want to say chaos because I'm not going to. The event hasn't happened, but I'm telling people to prepare to queue. And you're going to have some horrible calls to make. If you've booked to meet someone that's an idol of yours, you might end up in a queue with them for an hour or two, and you might miss a panel you want to go to. You might miss something else. So anyone getting autographs, please, please, please be as prepared as you can. They will have photos at the desk for you to take. The good photos will be gone by lunchtime each day, I guess. If you've got your own posters you want to bring in, if you've got anything of your own that you want to take, I really recommend in doing so. If you've got a way to get it to the event, I've got a lot of poster tubes, so I'm normally quite good at that sort of stuff. Just go with the best approach, and even pens. Get your own paint pens, get your own Sharpies, what you can bring that can speed it up. Because if you've got an amazing poster that's black and you need a silver pen, their silver pen doesn't work. You've just spent £200 on some ink that's not going to be visible. So try and be as prepared as you can. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up a horrible comparison to Star Wars Celebration 2016. I have right now the prices from Star Wars Celebration 2016. And Dave, I know you've done a few autographs in the past. I know yours were private signings, weren't they? I know you've got, was it Christopher Lee and Mark Hamill?
Yeah.
And I think, oh dear me, you can't actually read that. That's terrible. Okay, so the big takeaway here, the price of Mark Hamill in 2016 is £135, which works about $150 back then. And you got Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, a legend herself, was £80. That's the benchmark for me for autograph collecting. Really I had turned 20. It was the week before Star Wars Celebration, my birthday. Yeah. I'd saved up a lot. I had my family, for birthday presents. I said, just put money towards me meeting these people. And I had one of the most incredible weekends of my life because I got to meet so many legends that had an impact on me growing up.
Yeah. And
7 years later, it sounds really disrespectful, but Vivian Lyron Blair, who's had a great role in Kenobi, she's £75. She's a 10-year-old girl. She had a convention in the UK in December, which I missed because I was ill, which clearly is not why I'm annoyed. She was £30. So there's been a £45 increase in the space.
Some of them are wild. And again, this has no comment whatsoever on the performances. We love these people. Mm-hmm. But you had Anaheim last year, Michelle Lang, who voices Omega in the Bad Batch, who I love, but she was charging somewhere in like the 180 something 190 American dollars. It was a lot. I mean, Ian McDermott, who is a legend, but it's if Carrie in 2016 was 80 pounds, Ian in 2019 should not be 300 American dollars. That type of stuff is just it feels like they don't have a internal tiers. They just let the talent say whatever.
It is that, and kind of if people are curious about the pricing, the way it works, I remember it's annoyed me. I think I brought this up in the past on another video, but I remember reading an article maybe 8-9 years ago, and it was about the rise of two convention groups. I think they were in UK and America, Walker Stalker, which was all Walking Deads, and was it Heroes versus Villains, which was ran by Stephen Amell and all the Arrowverse stuff. And I remember this incredible article, which was the way these weekends work, the actor sets their price. The convention company might add an extra $5 or $10 on, and they will always get that $5 or $10. And then it was a way in how it worked. And here we are in 2023. And this is where I'm really torn with a lot of this because I've still booked 4 autographs. But I've missed out on so many I would love to meet, love to get on a poster. You know, I love my posters. And so I'm very lucky with the people I've met from things like Star Wars, from red carpets, which are free. Of course, you have to sacrifice 2 days and not have a guarantee of, you know, getting there and whatnot with the drama. But the pricing stuff, if anyone is curious about how it's happened, when I spoke about that spike of lockdown, when all these actors start seeing these prices going up, when they see the secondary market of their own value going up, when they get asked to do an event, hey, they'll do an event and this is their new price. And it's steeped so high so quickly and it's getting out of control. And at the same time, what makes it harder for conventions where the fans want to meet them? I'm not saying they don't want to meet the fans at all. Some of them, of course, you know, you're just not going to get Natalie Portman or Robert Downey Jr. at a convention ever. And that's nothing to do with them as people. That is the popularity of them. You know, the functionability. How would you get Robert Downey Jr. in a convention for a weekend? He might be like Mark Hamill. And this is why people always ask, is Mark Hamill coming? Obviously, we don't have answers to that. We can tell you he's not signing autographs. Whether he's there for Return of the Jedi on the Saturday, everyone's going to find out on that Saturday, which is, you know, I know a lot of people love to see him. Normally, he says he's not going as well, and he hasn't tweeted that, I believe.
Yeah.
But and this is speculation, but again, he was £130 in 2016. And the last convention he did was New York Comic Con in 2017. And I believe he was $180, $200. And he did a really cryptic tweet saying it'll be his last ever convention. And then he had to correct himself, say, oh, I never said that. It was my last convention of the year. But he's not signed a single autograph since until the Ukraine stuff a couple of weeks ago where he did 10 autographs, I believe. Saying he doesn't sign anymore. Patrick Stewart's the same. And you see the old guard that almost not created the convention circuit, but they were there from the get-go. When it was them meeting fans, it was they might get a weekend away, but they get to meet people. They get to see the films, the impact of their work on these fans they're meeting. And the rumors that, and I don't do rumor, but with Mark Hamill is because he's not signed in 6 years, his autograph value is now upwards of $800 through the secondhand groups. We're in an era for the first time where Harrison Ford's autographs now easier to get than Mark Hamill's because Harrison Ford's done so many signings across, you know, the last sort of 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and Mark has been very vocal about how much he doesn't like them anymore. He'd rather take pictures and do selfies and things. And so, yeah.
And this is it. And I respect him massively. And at the last Jedi premiere, which was where I went to, he was great with the fans because Mark Hamill is always good with fans. But if you're an autograph dealer that's shoving stuff in his face and his family's face, shouting at him, trying to get him signed, he's not going to do it. And Frank Oz was the same. Apparently, back in the day, he would sign everything for everyone. And he discovered eBay that people were selling it, got him upset. He started personalizing, apparently, when he would sign. Then he discovered people found out a way to remove personalizations to then sell stuff on eBay still. So Frank Oz, apparently, if anyone ever meets him, he'll chat to you for ages. He'll do a photo with you. Apparently, he's lovely, but he won't sign an autograph. And it's frustrating that an industry's gone in such a horrid way that actors don't want to do that and genuine fans miss out. And it is worth bringing up on a stream like this that, you know, listen, and a lot of actors have made livelihoods off signing autographs, which is great. For those that may have had roles, I always think of your Jeremy Bullocks, your Dave Prowse's, you know, they got to go to conventions weekends. They charged a really good rate. They were great with everyone they ever met. And it was a great way for these people to have livelihoods and connections to Star Wars decades after they had their final appearance. And it's just worth bringing this up that it's a very different hobby now. And the sort of weird thing I have to sort of say is if you want to try and get them to write a character name, take a Post-it note, write it down.
Yeah.
Their assistant might take it off saying, sorry, not going to do that. Ask the actor, they probably will. The actors are genuinely lovely. And what I would say, if you're paying money to meet an actor, again, Revenge of the Sith might be your favorite film of all time. You meet Hayden Christensen. This is going to sound weird to say. Make the effort to make a conversation with them. And it's so easy. It's so easy to, of course, be starstruck. It's Anakin Skywalker sitting in front of you. But if you don't talk, he's going to sign your item and you're going to go. And the reason they do that is because they have people that pretend to run companies to get 30 autographs and they won't speak to them. And I will always go back to meeting Carrie Fisher. Me and my sister were there. The person in front of us had 10, 15 photos signed, didn't speak a single word to. And I was just sort of stood there like, you're meeting Princess Leia and you're not having a conversation with her. And, that's the first weekend I did convention autographs. And at the time, our house, we had 2 bulldogs, not French bulldogs like Gary, but we had bulldogs, the same breed almost. So as soon as we went over to her, obviously we're a bit nervous, it's Carrie Fisher. And I said straight away, I said, oh, we've got 2 bulldogs at home. And she spoke with us for a good minute or two, which for a convention doesn't happen in the autograph queue. Security tried to pass us on, and she put her hand up, told them to stop. She let us see Gary the bulldog, who was on her desk with her. And it's moments like that great, she signed a poster. I don't care about someone signing a poster. I want to meet them and have an experience with them. So, and to get those things that, if you get a great experience, it's going to be amazing. And it had been for so many others across that weekend. One of the best ones, Ray Park, who, for obvious reasons, if anyone's following that, isn't going to be at this convention. He stopped the queue and he did photos of everyone. They told him you can't do selfies of people, and he said, I can. And he continued doing it. And it's things like that if you're going for the convention for autographs, I know I've waffled for a while, make the most out of meeting these people from Star Wars. Have a question or two ready. Try and chat with them. And listen, Ewan McGregor, I met him in October last year. I'd met him before at a red carpet. A red carpet, you don't get a chance to speak to them. They're going through. They've got to be quick. They've got press to do. But I met him last year. He was amazing. He was lovely to everyone. And I heard that at a celebration, they put people through like cattle. And where we got to meet him was at Scotland. And he took the time to speak to everyone, even with photos. He would go up to the monitor himself to check the photos had come out all right for you. And I've never seen that.
You have to be able to be willing to make it a human moment, because they'll appreciate it too. Because they get tired. Those are long days for them on their feet. If they're older, they'll sit them on a chair like Billy D or anything, and it's like it's a long time. But you want to be able to give them something too. That don't put the pressure on yourself I have to say something original, but everything's been said, but it hasn't been said by you. That's the thing. Everyone's gonna tell Mark Hamill or let's pick people that are there this year. Everyone will tell Carl Weathers that he inspired them in Rocky, or that they always looked up to him and stuff. But he's so nice that your version of that story, he'll be receptive to it, and you want to be able to have those moments. Autograph table, like you said, will be harder than photo op. Is generally easier because you do physically walk up to them. I will say, bear in mind, I think it's up to them whether they have the plastic barrier now. At least it was in the States. I know the UK did better with the response than the US did. So
we just kind of ignored it after a while. It's like, yeah, it's fine. You want it.
In Anaheim last year, it was maybe two-thirds did not have, but 1/3 did. Some celebrities opted for it. So
I believe they took it off the. So that's a great point. Someone put that up on a post the other day on a Facebook group I'm in, one of the collector groups. They've took it off the Epic Photos Op celebration thing. So with them removing that, it's up to the guests to say this. I believe that they won't have them. Obviously, it could be completely wrong. Anything can happen to these guests. Some are older, but that's a very good gadget brought up actually. And
because sometimes you have an idea I want to do this pose, that kind of ruined that. But because generally, celebration is the perfect time to make special things happen. If you have a lightsaber and you're gonna meet Ewan or Hayden or something, and you want to do you want him to hit his pose, and you do the Anakin, but you could come up with those sorts of things and really make it fun.
Definitely, and it's a great point with that, and kind of not in line of that, but kind of what I said earlier. You never know who you're going to bump into on the show floor or outside the venue. That could equally be as insane. This time, if I bumped into Dave Filoni, I'm going to drop the Tesco bag with all my breakfast in. That's not going to be in the photo next time. Although I think this time, anyone sees that hat from a mile away, he's probably going to get mobbed. And I know that I've seen people cosplay as Dave Filoni now, which is quite incredible as well to how he's gone on. But kind of, hey, to you, Dave. I know you're not doing autographs. We know Phil is. Phil, me and him had a debrief. He's had an amazing technique how he's going to make the most out of his autograph this year, which I won't discuss until after the event. But who would you meet if you were going to meet anyone there this year? That's my big question.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for myself, you're right, I'm priced out at the moment of some of these autographs, and for the time it takes, I just think for myself, I'm just going to use any savings that I put together for it, for other things, to maybe buy a one-off item that I might not buy normally. That's something that might stand out, a vintage piece, something, or an amazing poster. So really something I can take away, but this is an amazing thing. This is what I got from Celebration to take with me. Whereas I think the money I would have, maybe I could get 2 autographs and be like, or like 2 photo opportunities, and that's it. I'm kind of spent up. So I'm really looking at more of a one-off piece. I think for me, I'd love to have done the Clone Wars, the 4. I think there's D. Bradley Baker, Ashley Eckstein,
Yeah.
James
Was
Arnold
it
Taylor, and Matt
Lancer?
Lanter are all doing one signing, which I think would have been or photos. I think so. That would have been an amazing one. I think that probably would have been top of my list to do. But yeah, I think this year is going to be a collector's piece of something for me. Just to say, I'm just a bit priced out of it.
And Alden, would you, if you had any? And I don't, cause I mean, I know we're not really spoke about August War. It's not something I'd really talk to people, but it is an interesting hobby, isn't it? Like it is. I mean, people are feral at red carpets, and I've done my fair share, and I'm on the way out from wanting to do them for how bad they've got in the UK. There's a big drama, Duke of Elton John. It's nothing to do with Star Celebration, but even that had some. There's a signing for some 50. Sorry, I would say it was a 50th anniversary of one of his albums. He signed 100 copies. Didn't want them to go to second market. Gave them all to Selfridges, which is like a massive store in London. And they gave out the 100 wristbands the night before to the autograph dealers that are in with them. So people could overnight, apparently, who were fans and didn't get to get them. And they all ended up on eBay for $1,000 each when they cost £30. So that's sort of how it goes over here.
I'm not in the autograph game. I have some, over the years. For me, like celebrity photo ops has always been, if I'm going to do a celebrity thing, it'll be the photo op. I've had some great Star Wars ones. I had a great Sam Witwer one that I loved, where I had gone to the Rebels Remembered panel in Chicago, and they gave you this poster actually for the YouTube viewers of the cast and everything. And because I was going directly from the panel to Witwer, I didn't have time to put it with my stuff or whatever. So I just brought the poster and I said, look, I was like, it's all of your enemies. And he was like, give me that. And he held the poster like this. Like in the photo. So that was great. I mean, I've had some ones in the past, like one of my favorites ever was Peter Capaldi. And for the Star Wars fans that are not also Who fans, he's the 12th Doctor. And I went up to him, had a sonic screwdriver, and he was like so sweet and like actually talked to you and everything. I was in line for about 2 hours because he was listening to the stories and everything and high-fiving the kids. And he said, okay, so what do you want to do? And I said, well, I have a Sonic. I said, do you want to be the Doctor and I'll be the companion? And he said, no, you be the Doctor and I'll be the companion. And so the photo is me doing the pose and Peter Capaldi is like, and it's so sweet. So those moments are really precious. I don't know if I'm going to do one this year. I sort of have like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I know sort of my panel schedule, where I want to be. Once I get lottery answers, then I'll say, okay, this is where I want to be. But I accepted that I was not going to go big ticket. I'm not going to do Hayden Ewan. But, in the wake of Willow, I would love to do Warwick and Annabelle together if they do that, or at least go to their tables and get selfies with them. If we were going to do maybe like, who was it? Denise Goff from Andor would be a lot of fun. Especially because first timers are fun too. People that it's their first time doing this because they're new to Star Wars. Yeah. That's always a blast. Indira Varma is like that too. Of course, she's no stranger because of Thrones, but it's like you want to be able to make their first celebration a cool one.
No, absolutely. And that's the thing, how the fans are with them means, I love that. We'll come again in the future. And it's not for them. That does happen in autograph collecting. That happens in photo ops. It isn't for every actor. And people should it's the same with red carpets. If an actor doesn't want a photo, it's not the end of the world. It's not anything about them. They are normal people too. Yeah. Not necessarily normal people, sorry, but they are people too. They'll have an off date. They'll have an on date. Anything can happen. And that's kind of the way it works with these, is that, as I said, you'll make the most of it however you can. But, especially for those flying over, that if you're coming to this country and, they are, as I said, the prices that's happened in the last few years increase. You could do so much, not more in London, but you can put, as you said, Dave, you can put that towards other stuff. And for me, I didn't think I was going to do any this year. I'm doing a couple from Kenobi because I've got my Kenobi poster, which is going to replace Tron in a few weeks. But I would have loved to have met all the Clone Wars cast, but it's not to be. And at the end of the day, it's not important. What's important is making the most, out of the time at an event like this, seeing friends, meeting new people, going to panels. And it's, we're going to find out about the lotteries in the next couple of days, which is going to be, Twitter's going to be something, no doubt. But
I'm sure they'll be fine.
Everyone
I'm
will be so
everyone will
calm.
take it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The app
I'm
will
not
be
going.
down when
I'm
it
selling my
happens.
tickets. That's it.
Yeah.
People, I remember Chicago people were selling the tickets, which was incredible. People were putting QR codes on eBay.
Insane.
Yes.
Like,
I was
easy
on
way to
eBay
make money, but
looking earlier because the pin badges that people are getting, I'm like, oh, I quite like the celebration, just the pin badge. I just by chance went on, they're like 40, 50 pound people are asking for like
yeah.
just the pin badge for celebration. Craziness.
Wild.
But moving on from autographs, let's talk about some of the fun stuff again. As always, if people are sending questions, I just put them on the schedule. As I said, I'm not a dick, I've answered them as well. But some of these are ones that even we might not think of. We might have been to multiple ones before. It might be something brand new to us. So one last week, Dave, wasn't it, when we mentioned about comfy shoes? It's not something you think to tell people, but it's the most important thing.
Comfy shoes,
Extremely
deodorant.
important.
So here's a tough one. I don't know who wants to try and take this one first. What to avoid if you only have limited time. For example, you bought a 1-day pass. That's a tough one because I would say it entirely depends on what you want your experience at the event to be.
For me, I would say if you've got 1 day and 1 day only, I would avoid looking at going to the bigger Lucasfilm panels because not only do you have to get in, if you did get in, you've then got a queue before you get in that panel, probably because it's general seating. So you may have to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours in a queue. If you've got 1 day, go and explore. Go see what's around there. Look, like what I said earlier, the photo opportunities. Look at things like that. If there's panels on, you will probably get to see them on other stages that you may be able to just walk into, rather than waiting to queue. So really build your day around just having the best experience you can. You don't want to spend your only day there stood in a queue.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And I'm going to sort of follow that as well. Will prices be hiked by exhibitors? No, we touched on the other end of this, didn't we? Last week we spoke about how do we house them down for a bargain. Former ones like Lego, Hasbro, they won't be allowed to obviously sell over their retail price.
Mm-hmm.
Independent stands, I'd imagine there's some loose rules, but the one thing I see a lot every year, and actually I should have brought this up in the posters, the photo actually. Alden, you mentioned that lovely Rebels poster. Mm-hmm. Anyone going, get yourself. They'll sell them there. There'll be a stand that has them plastic sleeves to put big posters in. Because the amount of freebies you get from panels, you don't want these to get damaged. They always look lovely. They're great quality. There will be posters that you will get from these events. Now, people will sell them. People will take them. They'll take them to an exhibitor. They'll maybe sell them to them to sell them for more. There might just be an exhibitor that's got into a panel as well. So some things can be hyped, but it won't be done through the official, brands. These will be like independent shops that have got a bit of space. And I think a few of them I follow. A1 Toys is a really good company. And there's another, UK-based one, which I forgot about. ID Toys, I think, or I can't remember what it's called. They have said that they're not going to be changing their prices for Celebration. They're not going to up the price of Star Wars stuff. Be the same price as their website, which I think goes a long way. So stuff can be hyped. And then I've got an even tougher question. How to budget for the event? That's down to the individual, I would say, as a get-go. Again, if you're looking for that, if you want that one collectible thing, and I'll tell you this, one of the best things I've ever bought at Star Wars Celebration is this pen pot that's sat on my desk now for almost 5 years. This was from Chicago, the Space Slug pen pot. Cut a long story short, it ended up being something I bought. I didn't have the clue about it. It was... Oh, God, I've forgotten their name, the brand. Regal Robot. I've never bought anything from them. I don't know if they ship to the UK, but it's trouble. I saw this pen pot. I thought this is going to be one of the best things I can ever buy. I was able to get one. At my old job at Pinewood, the company I worked for, no one really liked Star Wars. No one had a clue what this thing was. They were like, why is there a slug on your desk? And the best thing is that in summer, I would put my sunglasses on top of it, and it looked like the bloke from James the Giant Caterpillar. What's it called? The caterpillar.
James the Giant Peach.
James the Giant Peach, that's it. Sorry. Is there like a caterpillar?
James the Giant Caterpillar.
There was a character that had like a bow tie and sunglasses, and it looked like that with the sunglasses on. So that's one of the best things I've ever bought, and that's a memento. So what I would say is, dependent on your budget, when the store is announced, which is something I should have written schedule, Chris Ryan's from Blue Banther and, I forgot the... amazing podcast. Christ almighty, that's really embarrassing. What else does Chris do? The main channel he's on, aside from
Braxium.
Braxium, yes. He tweeted me last night saying, have they actually announced items from the store yet? And I was like, you know what? They actually haven't. And that caught me off guard that, pre-orders are arriving for people. I've seen T-shirts, patches.
Yeah.
I've got the lanyards above my desk. I'm not going to get out the packaging, but the store hasn't been announced as such yet. They will obviously announce in the coming, I think, at some point this week, a lot of the stuff that you'll see in the store. You'll see more companies announce their exclusives. So if you really want to get into something from a company, give it a few more days, see there might be exclusives announced in advance. And I think for me, I like to have a momentum. It's been Black Series figures at a few of the other conventions. The pen pot I said from Chicago, the Obi-Wan and Darth Maul cardboard Black Series, which I somehow miraculously got back to the UK undamaged with the cardboard intact. That was a big thing for me. But how you budget for the event, the unfortunate thing I have to say is the food is going to be disgraceful, priced in the XL. What I can say from
disgraceful.
Yeah.
Well,
both quality and price
across the board.
I got an email from a group I'll be helping with the event. Everyone knows what group this can be, and one of the bullet points was like, we've confirmed that no one's allowed to take their own food or drinks in. There will be water bottle refill stations, but we don't know if you'll be able to take water bottles into the XL yet. But the vendors in there is a lot of food places in there. They're all in that middle thing when we had on the map earlier, but they are expensive. So if you're budgeting, unfortunately, you have to budget for maybe food. Normally, I don't eat much at conventions. I tend to have a breakfast and then a dinner, and I'll just sort of walk off the breakfast. If you're at Premier in like us, you're going to get the best breakfast in the land, if I'm being honest. But it's a weird one, isn't it? How to budget for the event. It really depends what you're looking for. I know I'm going to have to get like my sister something, so I'll budget to maybe get some other people like a little memento. But it's a good question, but it's a tricky one.
Alden, did you budget like big style for this to come across? Obviously, with coming across to the UK, was it something that you then took into account of being more of a vacation than anything as well?
I'm doing my best to, outside of flight and hotel, once all the necessary travel is taken care of, I'm doing my best to treat this the same way that I treated Chicago and Anaheim. Like, I'm not going to fall into to save money. I don't want to fall, as much as I'd like to, fall into I'm abroad, therefore I need to go and try XYZ. No, I'm still like, where's the McDonald's? Like, keep the mentality of convention going first. In Anaheim last year, I was similar to you, where I would eat at something in the morning, grab like a Starbucks, and then with like a hot sandwich or something, and then at the end of the day eat something else. During the day, I'll grab like a coffee and a donut if it's there, or something, or a muffin, and like try to keep it very, very minimal. Spend the food and drink money on alcohol at night, and see what else happens. But yeah, I'm definitely my budgeting for celebrations is always very loose. I don't want to travel back with like a big collectible. I don't want to travel back with boxes. So I will, I'll buy a Black Series figure here and there, or something else that is small. But yeah, for me, it's definitely easier than it is for a lot of people, especially some people got to think about their families, which is the other thing. Yeah. And that's, if you've got kids, then that changes the entire ball game.
I am on the lookout for one of my friends, a Jabba the Hutt. If there was a version of Jabba the Hutt, like a Stretch Armstrong figure. Now, I don't know if that has ever existed. I'm a friend that's looking for that for his son. He's there on the Friday, but I've said, listen, anything I see Jabba the Hutt, I'm gonna keep an eye out for you now. Don't know if you get a Stretch Armstrong, but you are there will be plushies somewhere, and this is it with Celebration. And I saw an amazing, with the Ammo Best stuff this week, which is great. Loads of people are sharing the classic Phantom Menace documentary footage. And I can't remember who shared the post earlier, but the classic, when they've got the Toyota car and they're driving with the Jar Jar Binks sort of thing on the stick. And I was like, if that could be a figure somewhere, a classic, Toyota car with Jar Jar Binks head on top with the camera crew, perfect. And the way it'll be for me is, I've got a store reservation that happened this week. That was Carnage. Phil, who's normally on with us, is in Chicago at the X-Wing tournament. With him being at an X-Wing tournament, he couldn't book anything, so we've got him for the Monday. But when they start announcing the merch, there'll be a lot of London British themed stuff. I'm sure there'll be like a Stormtrooper Abbey Road top they do, because I remember Chicago, there was loads of like Windu City was like one of the great t-shirts I think they had there, and things like that. So for anyone budgeting, for anyone attending, do what's right for you.
Yeah,
that's
and
the
if you're
key.
there for 4 days, don't find one thing and spend your load. Don't go, well, I've got this cash now, I've seen this one item, and first day I've got that, and they're like, oh, that's it. Then you see something really nice that maybe half the price the next day. Just if you spend, again, you get a lot more option when you're there for the full weekend. That by Monday, you may be able to come to some of those stores, especially the exhibitors who may have priced down to maybe get rid of some stock before they leave as well. So I think the Monday is well worth a wander around the independent exhibitors just to see what kind of stock they don't want to rebox up, and they may have some prices that you could then pick up something you've seen earlier in that weekend that was a bit more expensive.
Yeah, don't buy a Darksaber at 10:30 a.m. on the Friday as much as you'll want to, as much as everyone wants a Darksaber. That wait for the Monday evening if you can justify that.
And also, general convention rule: the last day, people want to move stuff. They will cut a deal with you if you're someone that feels confident to bargain. They will mark things down just because. Some of those toy booths where you're like, oh, I really want to get Black Series of these 4 characters. Well, you know what? Hold off, because that Monday they might be willing to do a 2 for 30, or so just hold on. There's always there's a will, there's a way. There's always some wiggle room. You got to embrace a bit of Han Solo, Lando, even Hondo spirit. Just say, hey, I want to get these 4. How about this? Most of the time, they don't want to travel home with it. So
yeah. And this is it. The traveling's the worst bit. I remember Chicago. One of my friends, they took 2 suitcases. They put the smaller one inside the bigger one. They stocked up the smaller one with stuff. One of my friends was American there, Quinn, who's in the photo with us tonight. One of the most genius things I've ever seen at an event. On day 1, he bought all of his stuff. He then went to a shop in Chicago, I don't know what the American post office is, UPS.
There's the US, there's the United States Postal, but there's UPS. It's probably what he did, or FedEx.
He boxed it all up, sent home. I was like, that's genius. That
sent it to his house.
Mailed
it to himself.
I just thought that's one of the best things I've ever seen at a convention. Can't really do it here in the UK, but like that could work. Maybe not overseas, because that pricing cost could be horrendous. But it's something to think about. And I said, especially those traveling in, that your suitcases, especially the overweight charges. But yeah, I mean, listen, this has been an amazing talk. I don't have too much more to say. We've hit the end of this schedule for today. I said, we've still got 12 days to the event. There's going to be at least one more of these celebration streams. Obviously, we'll have the make or break on Tuesday, the panel, the lotteries. One of our friends, Elliot, who's been on our Spielberg stuff, his YouTube channel, Hakuna Matata, which is great for representation, the channel of diversity as well. He's going to be joining us. He's going to be talking about London a lot. Nice. I think he's one of the other ones that's been caught off guard with the Elizabeth line being shut. So we're going to do an episode talking about London, what else you can do, not just obvious tourist spots, maybe some Star Wars filming locations, travel and transport, maybe even some food recommendations, because that's a message we've had a lot this week. And people are curious about food. Genuinely, O2 Arena is going to be like a really good place to get food after. That's what we would in 2016, and to one stop away. So, it's weird ending these videos because Celebration isn't tomorrow, but there is a lot more Star Wars stuff coming up. So, as I said, let us know your questions. You can comment after. We'll get back to you on those. We'll reply to them. And listen, Alden, it's been amazing getting you back onto this, especially Celebration. We're going to see you in a few weeks anyway.
I know.
And I think that's what's going to be nice, especially, obviously not everybody does YouTubing, just podcasting. And there's so many people I know that watch that don't record, and they're excited to see their favorite content creators come over. And then for people like us that maybe do videos, we get to see people that we've never met in person or we met a few years ago. And it's things like that make these events so much more worthwhile. Even me and Dave, what do we say? Me, you and Phil haven't been together since Rise of Skywalker, which is just over 3 and a bit years now, which
wow.
That was a very long day. I remember I did the
how far. I mean, you don't dox yourselves and give away your addresses, but how far are you from each other?
I'm in the northeast, so I'm about 300 odd miles outside of London, 300 miles, and George.
I'm the Midlands. I'm the Midlands, so I'm somewhere called Warwickshire. So I'm lucky. I'm an hour and a half London.
Okay,
I'm not too.
nice.
I say not too far to get to yours, Dave, but the premise of things, and then Phil's down south. So when the three of us would meet, it was like hard for three to meet in different areas.
Right.
It's kind of like, I mean, when you think of the north, you think of. I mean, you're big on Game of Thrones. To me,
Yeah.
Westeros has always been a map of the UK.
Exactly, yeah. So going from Winterfell to your like Riverlands, and he would be like, down here in like Dorne or something.
Yeah. And it's going to be great for everyone to meet, and there's so many people coming from so many different places. I think that's what makes it exciting. But
There should be many drinks drunk and many pints raised.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
exactly. And this is going to be great getting you. I know a lot of others have been on their channel that we can't wait to see. They've been talking to, everyone's got their group chats. Everyone's got people they're speaking to, and it should be a very good 4 days. And then in 2 weeks today, I won't be at Celebration at this point in time. We'll be at the Comedy Club for Four Senses Comedy Night, which I cannot wait for. And hopefully Arsenal beat Liverpool that day. I'm just going to get the last football reference out there. Things are going to be very awkward if they don't. But football and drama aside, I think that rounds out today's video. We're going to be back live this Wednesday talking The Mandalorian as we do. We also need to plan a Bad Batch review. But if we announce that, we will put it on our social medias when and where that's going to be. Go find us on there, Twitter and Instagram at @cinema_savvy, Facebook.com/cinema_savvy. Alden as well. We've got a link in the description. You've got so many different podcasts and channels at the moment. Plug all of them, because listen. I've listened to your stuff for a while. You've interviewed Ryan Johnson, which to me is, and I'm not saying this because you're on stream, it's the benchmark to me of modern Star Wars. If you're the one that got to interview Ryan Johnson post Last Jedi, that's not something other people are going to get the chance to do about Star Wars. So everyone needs to go and watch that, listen to that video now.
Thank you. I'm really proud of that one. He was amazing, and he's really great. And that's on the main show. That's on Octo Radio, a Star Wars podcast that encompasses my show. It's got some spin-off shows, Rebels Rewatch, different things. Right now, I'm doing the Mandalorian Diaries under Octo Radio's banner. So that's me reflecting on the season as it goes. Mandalorian season 3. So that's all AHCHTO Radio. Me personally at that Alden Diaz, THATALDENDIAZ. I also co-host and co-produce Casterly Talk with Ken Knapsack. That's where we cover all of our fantasy stuff. So your Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Willow was over there as well. I also am a Star Wars trivia competitor in a show called Epic Confrontations on the Anna Galaxy podcast and YouTube channel. And I was recently in a Star Wars actual play series on the All Remaining Systems channel, run by my friend Michael McCoy, who was our DM. And that was called Ionized Bastards, a little play on Inglorious Bastards. And it was a crew of unlikely Star Wars characters, kind of scumbags, who ended up together to take on a malicious ancient droid. And my character was an Ithorian lawyer, sort of like a Saul Goodman-y character who is really trashy and has a little bit of a redemption arc throughout. So that was a lot of fun. And yeah, there's popping up other places like here on Cinema Savvy. I also was just on with the guys at Geek Centric over in Canada. So Star Wars brings us all together from all these different places.
Yes,
Absolutely, and it's one of the beauties of stuff like Star Wars. So everybody, please do follow Alden on there. And as I said, we'll be at Celebration. It'll be great to see you there. And to anybody else watching, do let us know. We'll see you at the event. We will see you there. If not, we will still be online. We'll have some coverage. We'll lay that coverage nearer the time. And until then, see you on the next one.